So, welcome to the Healthy Start San Bernardino podcast, a space where we share real stories, community resources, and conversations that support healthy families right here in San Bernardino County. Today, we're talking about something that isn't always easy to discuss: pregnancy and infant loss, and how families can find support, compassion, and healing when they experience it. To help us understand this work, we're joined today by Yvonne McCombs. Yvonne is an author, a speaker, a wife, a mother, and a bereavement doula who supports families through pregnancy and infant loss. So, Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Before we dive in, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Again, my name is Yvonne McCombs. I'm also a bereavement, birth, postpartum doula, as well as a pregnancy and infant loss advocate. Came to birth work as a result of experiencing 8 pregnancy losses. And during that time, I noticed that there were some things that I was uneducated on. There were some tests that I was supposed to be offered that I was not. And I really feel that my experiences birthed my purpose because I did not want any other mom to feel the same way. And so I started to educate myself. Back then we had the paper record. So I would start sneaking my record and taking pictures of it, and then I would research what the doctors were writing about me. And so as I did that, I found out that after 3 losses, I was supposed to be offered tests to see if they can pinpoint the reason why I continue to have these losses. And so I finally moved to back to the Inland Empire from Northern California and found an awesome doctor, and she was able to do that and pinpoint some things. Back then, I was with another partner, so it was him versus me that had the issue. So I was grateful that I was able to get some answers. But I knew then that my pain was not just for myself, but to help other people. So then I started to just naturally and organically support friends and family. I just didn't know that it had a name. And so I started to look into what I was doing, maybe what was called. And then that's where I found bereavement doula through Heidi Faith at stillbirthday.com. And so I became a bereavement doula, but then I didn't want to just do bereavement. So then I found Sankofa, where I became a birth and postpartum doula.
I love that. Wow.
Mhm.
Um, we as a team at Healthy Start San Bernardino thought, you were the person that we wanted to speak to this month because you have
Oh.
done so much amazing work in the community.
Mhm.
And as a care coordinator with Healthy Start, we're having conversations consistently with families about the benefits of a doula, but we need to always start with what is a doula, right? And there's so many
Mhm.
different types. So I love that you have that full spectrum approach. And today
Mhm.
you'll be giving us a little bit of the specialization that is bereavement support. So
Absolutely.
for many of our listeners, this might be the
Mhm.
first time that they hear the term bereavement doulas. So can you explain what a bereavement doula does?
Yeah, so what I do is I walk alongside the mom and sometimes her family during the grief process. What that may look like or where I'm introduced is if they're having a miscarriage, if they've had a miscarriage, if they had a stillbirth, if they're in the process of experiencing stillbirth, like it's fresh, if they have dealt with some grief after having a loss of a baby, then I'm introduced later after the loss to help deal with the grieving process. Grief looks different for everyone differently. So, for example, it can be that I do what I call bereavement sessions to where it's one-on-one with the client and I'm providing a listening ear, sacred space for her to share how she's feeling. Sometimes it can get a little challenging because mom doesn't really know how she's feeling. And so what we'll do is help to like I don't want to say organize her grief, but help put things in perspective for her so that she can get to a more healthier space. Sometimes it may look like lighting a candle, writing a letter to your baby, including family in, writing a letter to God, writing a letter to heaven. Like there's so many facets of what we can do. But what I do is I follow mom's leading. Sometimes it may look like coming in and taking pictures of the deceased baby. Some moms want it, some moms do not. Sometimes it may look like just providing resources, mental health resources, resources just to educate mom, resources for testing because mom wants to make sure this will not happen again. So it looks like so many things.
I love that. Perfect. Um, so that's a lot, right? Um, but no, but I think it's all uh amazing support because
Mhm.
what we find is when speaking with families that have experienced a loss, people around them don't necessarily know how to provide support, right? And even in trying to be supportive, sometimes that may look like silence, sometimes that might look like avoidance, right? Because they don't
Mhm.
know how to support their loved one when they're walking through an experience like that. So I love that
Mhm.
you have that wealth of tools that you can use
Mhm.
when you're working with
Mhm.
them. Do you also support families, like families and extended families? And so, how would you kind of incorporate them in?
Like now, the resources are way better than when I experienced loss because there's books for children to include them. We can just sit around with kids and I can help open discussion up for how kids, our siblings feel with loss. And so I'm very grateful for the books now that we have to educate and to help mom or dad to bring that conversation to light. Sometimes there's activities we can do as well where we include dad, we include kids so that they can know that their feelings are valid and they're seen because sometimes the focus is just on mom, where dad's hurting, kids are hurting, grandma's hurting because it's a twofold loss. It's like I lost my grandbaby and my daughter's hurting and I can't do anything. And so just helping them to know that even if they just come and just sit with mom with their hand on her back, that is very instrumental. And if they don't know what to say, then just don't say anything, but their presence speaks volumes. So just letting them know just how important they are in spite of and really honing in on following mom's lead. Like that's so
Absolutely.
huge. Because like I always share in when I was at UC Davis in Sacramento and my baby passed, during that time they would cremate the baby and then put the ashes in a Build-A-Bear. But that was very stressful for me because I didn't know what I was to do with the bear. Like I was like, do I keep it in the car? Do I put it in a seatbelt? Do I take it out? Where do I put the bear? And so I know they meant it well, but a conversation or question should have been asked, would you like me to? Not just giving it because it was very stressful. I end up giving the bear away. Sometimes they ask if you would like to hold your baby. During that time, they did ask, and I did not want to, and I don't regret the decision. That was good for me. And so when moms do the same thing, like, I don't want to touch my baby, I don't want to, because they're angry, which is definitely understandable, but you have to respect their decision. And then sometimes in the same breath, they change their mind, and then you respect it that way, but you don't push them to do either or. And I felt like during my time of loss, I was pushed certain ways.
Mm, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So, when you've covered this a little bit already, but
Hmm.
when a family experiences pregnancy or infant loss, what are some of the emotional needs that they often have?
Sometimes I can be met immediately with anger because, especially if it's a reoccurring loss, they're tired of getting pregnant and are not allowing to, or not being allowed to proceed with birth. They're tired of feeling hopeful and like excited because like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant again. This is my rainbow baby. And the same thing happens. Sometimes it's severe depression, sadness. Sometimes it's a shame because they're like, oh my gosh, now I have to go back and tell people that I lost the baby again. So it's a whole lot of emotions that I have to sift through. Sometimes I'm aware that it may be a little bit outside of my scope. So then that's where I reach out to my mental health professionals to help guide me with the client.
Love that. And basically, you are helping the family build their support team, right? So
Yes.
I absolutely love that.
Yes.
And so you touched on this already, which was
Mhm.
amazing. We talked about how, loved ones, want to be there, right? Want to be
Mhm.
supportive. And so if you had to give like top four things, right?
Mhm.
For families and friends of those who experience loss, what would be 5 things that you could tell them they can kind of have in their toolbox, right? Of ways
Mhm.
to provide support or things that they may, um, do. And then maybe one thing or 2 things that you
Mhm.
absolutely think that they should not say in
Okay,
that
I'll start
case.
with the things not to say, and I
Okay.
beg people not to say this. Never compare someone's loss to the loss of a pet or the loss of a job or the loss of a boyfriend or the loss of some shoes, because that's very hurtful. And then number two, I would say don't say you understand if you don't and never been in a situation like that, because it's still different. Those are my top two because those can cause harm than good.
Mm.
As far as like resources or tools or tips to keep in your back pocket is to know that your presence is valuable and you don't have to say anything. You can just show up. Just you showing up speaks volumes. By you like putting works into actions, meaning like if the family has kids, and just by you sending like a DoorDash or some food there so they don't have to worry about cooking. That's huge because that's one less thing to worry about. If you can come and you see the dishes are in the sink and you just wash the dishes, like there's so many simple things that you can do. I would say third, if you have a relationship with a person, you can create a grief box, and the box can be so simple. It can have a journal, it can have a candle, something simple that when they're ready, they can add to it with their mementos they got from the hospital. They can spend some time writing. If they like candles, they can smell the candle or use it as a momentum to honor the loss. Um, I feel like that's more than what you
Yeah.
asked me.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's the added like bonus, right? You put some
Okay.
bonuses on it. I love that. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. And those
Okay.
are very practical and accessible things
Mm-hmm.
that people, friends, family can pull on and lean on because
Yes.
it makes sense, right? So I love
Mm-hmm.
that you pointed that out. Thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
and so this piece speaks about that whole idea of healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, from your perspective, what does healing look like for families after loss?
Healing is, I would say, like the first thing that popped into my head was colorful. And I say colorful because it's so many emotions and ups and downs. You can feel happy one moment, and then next thing you know, tears are running down your face. You may be triggered by something, a smell, a sound, a song, a word. And so there's so many colors to describe it, but it's not wrong. And so you just have to be able to pivot. Like I had someone who they started to clean up their room because it was shared with baby and it was just left in disarray. But they started to clean it. They were good. They cleaned it, and then grief came and then they wrecked it. But that was okay because in that moment, that was how she felt. And so what I do is I give space for the real feelings and I don't judge the real feelings because grief is real. And then I always let them know that with grief that it's real and it doesn't ask to come, it just comes. And so we just navigate as it comes.
Awesome. Now, what would you say, because with healing, there are some people in the world, right, who just, because of it being uncomfortable for them, they feel like there's an end to that process, right? Like you should be over it, right?
Yes.
So, which I believe is so unfair, and it just speaks to the lack of knowledge about how complex, like you said, grief is. So is there a time frame though? Do you feel like there's a time frame where, or a benefit, let's just say benefit, right? In seeking support, even if this didn't just recently happen? Like, have you met any families that when they find out what you're doing, as a profession, do you find yourself having conversations about grief that hasn't been dealt with for a long period of time? And how do you encourage them in terms of like entering into that or reimagining what healing can look like for them?
Yeah, I experienced actually an older woman. She was in her, I want to say 50s, 60s, and we were on like a collaborative call, and she was triggered. And I was blown away because she's in her 50s and 60s, but she had never had a safe space to share. And so even though it was out of protocol, we were able to encourage her and pray for her, and just the space to be able to cry in that moment. She was able to grieve, and then of course encouraging if she needs our resources or if she wanted to connect with a therapist. But I was just like, wow, because you never know how long someone carries something. And then when they feel safe enough, then they will, expose it to allow the healing to begin. And so that was beautiful to be able to be in that presence. And like, this was a business call, but because we were sharing, she felt like, you know what, I've been holding this, but now I feel like I can let this go. So it feels like freedom. And so
Absolutely. That's what it sounds like. Freedom. Like you
yes,
said, freedom.
freedom. Yes, freedom for someone older than me. And I was just like, you know what? I have to make sure these spaces feel safe because it may be someone older than that and
Yeah.
they never had the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I do
Mhm.
feel like, we talk about this being hard work, right? Birth work being, a lot of us are called to serve family during this time. And
Mhm.
it's we say some of us refer to it as ministry, but it really is.
Yes, it
Especially
definitely
in that
is.
example there, right? Where
Hmm.
you just never know who you're going to come in
Yeah.
contact with.
Hmm.
And so I love that you created that space, helped to create that space for her to feel supportive, or
Hmm.
supported, so that she can have that experience, which is
Hmm.
going to have a lifelong impact on her, right? Um, so let's thank you so much for
You're
all that
welcome.
you have shared. But I want to spend the last bit of our time together talking about how people would go about like supporting you, or working with you for looking for those who are looking for support would actually find you, and what that process would look like for you.
Well, I am on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but I found recently people have just been sharing my phone number and I love it. I don't know who the people
Yes.
are.
Yes. That's what happens when you're doing good work, right? It's like
Yes.
word of mouth. I love that. I love that. Perfect. And on the socials, can they find you under Perfect Peace or Yvonne McCombs?
Yes, it will be in underscore perfect underscore peace underscore D like David, S like Sam. And
Perfect.
this for TikTok, it's in perfect peace DS.
Okay, perfect. And we'll include those
Mhm.
in our link,
Okay.
so people can find you and support your work.
Okay.
I love that. What other, before we close, for listeners who've experienced a loss, or know someone who has, what resources or other organizations? Because again, people are this podcast will touch the lives of those that don't live in
Mhm.
San Bernardino County, right?
Mhm.
So, speak to me a little bit about whether you provide any virtual support. So let's cover that first.
Yes.
And in addition, if there's any other online resources that you particularly love, right? And
Mhm.
can provide to families that may contact you in places where maybe you can't reach them, what would you share
Mhm.
with them as a resource?
Well, I love Loma Linda has a bereavement program. They also have it for children, parents and children. I also like myself
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because I
yes.
do one-on-one sessions. I am working on a curriculum for group sessions, but I find that people rather have the one-on-one, so I've been focused on that more so. Also, I do have a client. She was my birth client, but she experienced loss, and so then now she is in the works of becoming a bereavement doula. So she will be who I refer to as well. Also, there is another, no, actually, stillbirthday.com with Heidi Faith. That's an excellent program. There's also Erica McAfee. She does Sisters in Loss. There's also Sales, S.A.I.L.S. I can't remember the acronym at this moment, but if you Google all these, they'll come up.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then there's also, I think that's it for now, like my top that I would choose.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Excellent. And then do you also provide virtual support? So
Yes,
can families
absolutely.
work? Okay, so families can
Yes.
work one-on-one with you virtually
Hmm.
if they're not living in San Bernardino County.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if someone is listening today and
Hmm.
called to do bereavement work, where do you recommend that they start learning about specific trainings? I think you mentioned the name of the organization, but if you could say it one more
Hmm.
time, where could
Yes.
they go to get more information to become certified or trained?
Yes, so how I got certified was through stillbirthday.com. I would definitely recommend it. There's also a young lady named Nanika Hall, pregnancy and infant loss advocacy training. Actually, she specializes just in bereavement. Like she does so much, and her trainings are virtual, so you don't
Okay.
have to be, in the same vicinity because
Mhm.
she has you. Also, Erica McAfee, she also has Sisters in Loss. She also offers training as well as Heidi Faith that does stillbirthday.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have enjoyed our time together today.
Mhm.
As an organization, Healthy Start San Bernardino was blessed last night to offer our second annual Wave of Light event
Mhm.
and for San Bernardino County. And like you talked about, there's a need to create these safe spaces for families to
Mhm.
come and heal and be for a lot of them it's an opportunity to come out of isolation because they're not talking about it.
Yes.
Some of
Mhm.
them have not really truly processed, right, what happens. And
Mhm.
so the space last night was beautiful because it allowed families to do that. So thank you so also for being a part of that last night with our other community partners. Um, Thank you for sharing your story today
Mhm.
about how what brought you to this work, and for the important work that you do to bring compassion and dignity to families during such a tender time.
Mhm.
To our listeners, if you or someone you know have experienced a pregnancy or infant loss, please remember you are not alone.
Mhm.
Um, We are here to connect you with local resources, support groups, and compassionate professionals who can walk alongside you, like Yvonne McCombs. I will be linking all of the resources that she shared in our the bio, right?
Okay.
After this, that's going to accompany this recording. So anyone who sees us or watches us chat today can also follow up with those resources. And then please, one more time, maybe give out your email and your contact information.
Okay.
For those that are interested in talking with you directly.
Okay. So my email is perfectpeace, D like David, S like Sam, @gmail.com. My website is imperfectpeace.net. I'm also on TikTok at imperfectpeaceDS, also on Instagram at in_perfectpeace_DS. And if you can't find all those, just look up Yvonne McCombs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. So this has been another episode of Healthy Start San Bernardino podcast, where we believe every family deserves support, healing, and hope. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, too.
Okay, bye-bye.